Let's talk about Brown University, the pros, the cons, and how to get in. Brown is an Ivy League university. It's located in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's arguably the most liberal of all the Ivy League schools, and it's proudly earned the name the Weird Ivy. Brown tends to attract students who are free thinkers, who are highly progressive, who are nonconformists, who think outside the box. And a 2023 poll by the Brown Daily Herald found that about 40% of Brown students identify as LGBTQ. So it clearly attracts students who embrace more of an alternative lifestyle. You can't talk about Brown without talking about its signature open curriculum. What is the open curriculum? Well, at all the other Ivy Leagues and at most of the universities, you have to take a set number of courses in order to graduate. It's either a core curriculum where there's specific courses you have to take, or there are distribution requirements. So you've got to take some science courses and some English courses and some math courses. Brown eliminates all of that. Students at Brown have the freedom and flexibility to choose whatever courses they want to take. And the reason Brown does this is they want students to explore their passions in a way that they want to do it. So, for example, maybe you're a humanities student, but you're kind of interested about aeronautical engineering. They want you to be able to take that course and not worry about having time to fit it in. And Brown takes this theory one step further, enables students to take almost all their courses pass-fail. So again, if you're interested in a discipline, but it's not really in your wheelhouse, you don't have to worry about taking a course that's going to damage your GPA. You can just take it pass-fail. And that really just encourages students to learn rather than panicking about their grades. And even in the case where you're not doing well and you think you're going to fail, you can always drop it right at the end of the year. And even if you were to fail a course, it wouldn't show up on your transcript. So what the open curriculum does is it really kind of puts students in the driver's seat of their own education and says, we trust you to kind of map out the course of your own education, to choose the courses that interest you. And we don't want you stressing about grades. We don't want you kind of competing with your roommate or other kids. We're not going to grade on a curve. We're going to just encourage you to get a good education, pursue the classes you want to take, and don't stress about grades. So what are some of the pros of Brown University? Well, the first pro is obviously the open curriculum. Many students go to Brown and gravitate towards Brown specifically because they want the freedom to be able to choose whatever courses they want to take. They don't want to be beholden to any kind of core curriculum or distribution requirements. And they love the fact that you can take certain courses pass-fail, which again puts more of an emphasis on just learning and exploring and not worrying so much about your GPA or your grades. Another big pro of Brown is the kind of chill vibe that exists on campus. Students are very warm and welcoming and friendly and accepting and non-judgmental. It just goes with the territory for having a school that attracts a lot of nonconformists. And it creates this atmosphere where students are very collaborative. They're not hyper competitive with each other. They're not stressing over their grades the way they do at some of the other Ivy Leagues. And they're just kind of warm and welcoming with each other. Another key pro for Brown is the focus on undergraduate teaching. Like you'll find at Princeton and Dartmouth, these smaller Ivy Leagues really put a premium on undergraduate teaching. You don't get taught by graduate students and teaching assistants the way you do at some of the larger Ivy Leagues or some of the larger universities. There's really this focus on having the best courses from the best professors possible. And along these lines, Brown also has an excellent writing program. So any course that you take that requires writing, it's top-notch for all Ivy League universities. Another pro for Brown is it's walkable to downtown Providence, Rhode Island. It's literally right off campus. Providence is a small city. It's kind of artsy. Newport has some beautiful beaches. There's a lot of great seafood restaurants. There's some good diversity in Providence. And again, it's just off campus. And then a final pro for Brown is that it's right across the street from RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, which is a world famous art school. And as a Brown student, you can take any design or art courses you want right across the street at RISD. And even a select number of students each year apply to get a dual degree from both Brown University and RISD. So what are some of the cons of Brown University? One of the cons is that a lot of students report that a lot of the facilities on campus are kind of run down. There's not enough study spaces for students. The dorms aren't very nice. The food is very mediocre. There just seems to be this kind of lack of quality on campus that a lot of students have identified. Another con about Brown is there's very little school spirit. Sports are not emphasized at Brown the way they are at some of the other Ivy Leagues. Only about 14% of Brown students participate in a Division I sport. Compare that with like 20% or more at Dartmouth and Princeton, which are very athletic schools. And maybe because of that, Brown doesn't have a lot of school spirit. This isn't a type of school where all the students are going to rally together and go to the big game. It's one of those schools where kind of students do their own thing. There's no central social hub. Fraternities are not big on campus. So some students complain that there's kind of like, there's no real community at Brown, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. A final con of Brown, and this is of course depending on your perspective, is that Brown definitely has the reputation for being a woke campus. As you know, it's very liberal, it's very progressive, but that can be extreme. There are certain Ivy League campuses like Yale, like Brown, which are known for being ultra liberal. And while some students may find this kind of refreshingly open-minded, there are other students who will find this kind of oppressively woke. How to get into Brown? Well, with all the Ivy Leagues, what you want to make sure you do in your application is you want to tailor your application specifically to that school. So the first thing you want to do in your application is make sure you talk about the open curriculum and why that's so important to you. You have to remember, Brown is looking for students who have the confidence to chart their own course and design their own education. They're looking for students who think outside the box. So as much as possible in your application essays, you want to write about how Brown will give you the freedom to pursue the things you want to pursue. Maybe you want to mix and match a few different disciplines in an unconventional way. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you take advantage of the open curriculum in your essays. The other thing you probably want to talk about in your application to Brown is social advocacy and work with the community. Brown is known for having a lot of students who are involved in social advocacy, who are fighting for social justice. It doesn't mean that every student on campus is going to fit that profile, but it's a dominant theme among students who go there. So a lot of students who get into Brown are students who in high school have been very involved in projects, whether they're nonprofits or community outreach groups or working for NGOs, something that helps the community. It could be your community, it could be something overseas, but Brown tends to attract fewer students who are more just focused on themselves, like I'm the best chess player or I'm the best lacrosse player. They're looking more for students who are outwardly focused and looking to be engaged and active in their community. So that's something you definitely want to play up in your essay if that's you. And a final thing to note is, of course, with all these schools, you want to make sure you spend some time on their website and you look up specific courses, professors, research opportunities that you might want to take advantage of. And be mindful of the fact that at Brown, they don't call your specialty a major, they call it a concentration. So you just want to make sure you get that lingo down. And also, there's no such thing as a minor at Brown, right? There's just concentrations. Another tip for getting into Brown is to apply early decision. Early decision is different from early action. Early decision means that you've made a decision early. You've promised to enroll in a school if you get in. And the benefit here is that Brown has a regular decision admission rate of about 4 or 5%, but their early decision admission rate is about 13%. So it's a multiple of about 3 times. Statistically speaking, if you apply early decision, you're much more likely to get in than if you apply regular decision. And there's a variety of different reasons for that, but all you should know is that it puts you in a much better category. Final tip for getting into Brown is, as much as possible, you want to submit your SAT or ACT scores. Now, most schools these days are test optional, and maybe half the applicants submit their scores and half don't. But you don't want to pay attention to that stat. You want to pay attention to the percentage of admitted students who supplied their scores. And at Brown, about 71% of the freshman class submitted either their SAT or their ACT. It doesn't matter which one. So what that tells you is that the vast majority of students that they accepted submitted their scores. And you can still get in without submitting your scores, but only 29% of students did. So my advice to you is enroll in an SAT or ACT prep course, spend several months working on that, 6 months at least, and really ace those tests and then submit your scores.